going for a bit of a run. Joshuani times his run perfectly, and here's a beautiful try.
It stays in the hands. Ravel Talmanda frees it up, and Rendezvous is into the corner.
Here's Christie. He's got plenty of pace. Let's see if they can run him down. I reckon they might be able to, but he's thrown a nice pass to Lear, and he needs to deliver it. Does so to Barrett, and the Blues score an end-to-end try.
Here's Rayasi. Rayasi gets away from Fluke and then sneaks a brilliant ball away. Back in field for Booth. There's no one there. Slick, oh so slick from the Canes.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening and welcome back to The Breakdown. What a way to start Super Rugby. The Blues won, the Crusaders didn't. We've seen razzle-dazzle, a bit of rust, and Ian Foster has stolen all the headlines this week. We've got so much to talk about. We've got Kieran Reid joining us live on the program, Brad Weber, and of course these usual suspects, Sir John Kerwin, Mills Muliaina, and the one and only Cal Tanana. JK.
What do you mean the Blues won?
The Blue...
You didn't mention the Hurricanes either at the top, by the way.
Oh,
you said
okay,
as if you
okay.
didn't think we were going to win.
Oh, well. You started with
The Blues won.
You started with a hiss bang and a roar, JK. You must be happy.
Yeah, no, I was just really excited about the whole weekend, Mills. I think the new rules are working. Lots more fatigue, lots more tries. Long may it live.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, continuing on. First week, you usually sort of see the first week and you think, oh man, there's so many stop-start, mistakes everywhere, but no, you got off with a hiss and a roar, so stoked.
Chiefs the team to beat, clearly.
Oh, yeah. Standard,
After round one.
From a neutral point of view.
What do you reckon?
But you know what? I reckon rugby's back. I was so excited to see Super Rugby back. It's been wicked. There's been tap moves. There's been a bit of old school. The Fijian Drua first time here in New Zealand, seeing them play against Moana Pasifika was a banger of a game. So, I mean, to set it off the way they did, especially on Friday night with the Chiefs, man, couldn't ask for anything better.
Well, someone is clearly missing today, which is why we've got the lovely Cal Tanana. But he is down in Queenstown at the New Zealand Golf Open. We're talking about Jeff Wilson, and he's got a message for you.
Righto, team. This is the Champions Lounge at the New Zealand Open. And that's what I know Sir John Kerwin's thinking about already after last night when the Blues took over my Highlanders in Dunedin. So this is a debt that is being paid. But JK, on June the 2nd, in the last round, we're coming back for you. And I'll be getting one of these right back.
Mate, you're supposed to pay for it. Like you've taken that straight out of the tent. Straight out of the golfer's tent, you've stolen it. Double or nothing, I'm in.
It's sparkling grape juice, is what?
Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? He's only played 2 rounds and he's 14 over.
Is he?
He's mud.
Look, this is what I was laughing at. Did you see the baseline? It said Jeff's last 6 holes, double bogey, triple bogey, quadruple bogey. How's he going to go at the New Zealand Open this week?
And that's why they call him Trump. He's like a Trump golfer. He just chucks it in. He's mud. Absolute mud. You know it, Wilson.
Well, you've had the clubs out a bit lately, so maybe you should be down there, KT.
I'm worse. Hey, so have you, actually. I'll see your tee off, yeah. Swing there.
I can swing them, but absolutely no good with the irons. The short game is a big problem. Let's get into Super Rugby, though, because we're back with our Nurofen Super Rugby, all thanks to Chemist Warehouse. Over the weekend, and so to Brad Weber and the Chiefs. Brad, thank you so much for joining us live. On a scale of 1 to 10, how did it actually feel to put 31 points on the 6-time defending champions down at their home turf in Christchurch?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can put an actual number on it, Kirsty, but that felt pretty good. But we've obviously been on the receiving end of a few of those from the Crusaders over the years, so particularly in their title run the last 5 or 6. So, yeah, felt good to give one back, but obviously don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. It's week 1, and the Crusaders were particularly missing some strong cattle, so we know that we'll be facing probably a stronger beast later in the season, and she's a long old year, so can't get too far ahead.
I love... Yeah, I bet you did, mate. I love the new rules, but how are you finding it both as a halfback, because it's a big change for you, on attack and defence? What's changed?
Well, I'm loving it. First and foremost, it's tough on the lungs, though, I'll tell you that much. It's balls in play a lot more, it's quicker, but I guess that does suit our team profile, so we're pretty happy about it. But certainly from a nines point of view, the big change around the scrum having the nine only being able to go to the tunnel is huge. I think it's a good change. It's a bit of a negative play when nines just kind of get in there and stuff it up at the base. So it gives a bit more freedom there. It's tough defensively. Kind of have to pick a side or pick a guy that you want to try and follow. But then you'll probably see some. I think as the season goes on, you'll see more interplay with the number 8, getting him going one way, or particularly with some fast number 8s we've got around the country. I think you'll start seeing more strikes with them involved, which, look, I'm pretty glad that we've got like Luke Jacobson and Peter Gus-Sowakula on our side. They're both pretty good ball runners. I'm glad I don't have to tackle them.
Webby, you talk about strikes and different tactics now with these new rules. I'm loving the way the forwards have gone back into the old school tap kicks. I mean, you guys did it a couple, and it's been a real feature through the course of the weekend. Just talk us through that.
Look, to be honest, we're all copying the Northern Hemisphere.
There it is.
It used to be the other way around, right? Where we were the innovators and they would end up copying us. But I've got to be honest, we've been watching a lot of the tap plays that they've been doing up north and really enjoying them. And I guess particularly against the Crusaders, they've got a good set piece, scrum and line out. So it's actually quite good coming up with something different, have a bit of fun. The boys seem to really enjoy practicing them, and we obviously scored one on the weekend. So we're 1 for 1 in that department. So I think you'll probably see more of those too.
Webby, this is a consistent team that you've got. You had these guys for the last couple of years, so that must be really nice. But also to see guys like Sean Stevenson and that start to really blossom. I know you've spoken about the attacking game, but the balance also in your kicking game, especially what sort of the threat he's brought, has been excellent. I know I don't like to pick out individuals, but for me, he's actually he played really outstanding in the weekend.
Yeah, Shooter's been knocking on the door for a number of years now, and he's probably admittedly to himself that it's been consistency that he struggled with, and the form that he showed from Maldives through the NPC to All Blacks 15 last year was just outstanding, and it's great to see him start with a hiss and a roar, and hopefully he can keep that going, because we've always known the type of player he can be. It's just about filling his potential. So, yeah, we're really confident that he'll do that this year, and I'm excited for him. And, yeah, you're right. In terms of the kicking game, like, he's got a monster boot, man. So it's so good to be able to use and having, I guess, kicking threats across the backline. It was a feature for the Chiefs probably back when you were here with me, Millsy.
I was a hell of a kicker, mate. You know that.
So it's good to have it back. Still need to work on Anton Leonard-Brown's kicking, but other than that, we've got marks.
Brad, it's so good to talk to you about rugby, but some things are bigger than the game after the flooding and Cyclone Gabrielle. How is everyone in your hometown of Hawke's Bay?
Oh, look, they're not great, Kirsty. To be honest, it's been some of the toughest couple of weeks that I've had to deal with, and I wasn't even down there for it. Just not being able to contact family and check how they were. You're obviously seeing the footage come through and hearing what's going on, and just feeling pretty helpless, being stuck up away from the region, and then obviously people lost their lives, which is just horrendous. And so you're just sort of waiting at your phone, hoping that one of your family members isn't one of them. Or someone that you know, but just devastated for the region. Like, it's a beautiful part of the world, but it's just been destroyed. People's, obviously big wine growing country, orchards, just crops decimated. There's no words that I can really say to, exactly put how it's been, but trying to do my part where I can. In some way to help. And then it has been great seeing the country get around the small region and donate so many things, so much money, so much food and clothing and essentials through that hard time. And, obviously, Sky, you guys did great donating that $500 a point over the weekend. It was awesome. And you're seeing so much pile through. But, look, they're going to need that and more to rebuild. It's going to take a long time. Costs a lot of money, and people have lost. Some people lost everything. It's just devastating to see it happen in your hometown. Yeah, it's been tough.
It's absolutely awful. But Brad, we're thinking of you. We're thinking of everyone down in Gisborne, Hawke's Bay, and everyone that has been affected. And thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Cheers for having me on.
Absolute legend, and every player across Super Rugby Pacific and Super Rugby Aupiki have done their part this weekend. For every point scored, $500 has been donated from New Zealand Rugby and Sky. $250,000 has gone to the Red Cross Foundation for the relief effort. Just massive, isn't it, JK? These are the sorts of things that can make a real difference.
Yeah, often, it gets harder and harder because it goes off the news and people are still devastated, lost their houses. So I think it's really important that the rugby community continue to support, all year, because they've had some rough few years. COVID lost a lot of the orchards and stuff like that, lost their fruit, couldn't get money. So it's going to be a long, long time, and we just need to keep close to them for sure.
Well, it's a big year, we know that, with the Rugby World Cup coming up later on, but round one of Super Rugby did not disappoint. Game one didn't disappoint between the Crusaders and Chiefs. Everyone was talking about Richie Mo'unga, his last dance, Damien McKenzie coming back at 10. Who played well, who didn't, Mills?
Well, obviously Damien has played very well, off the back of, a very sort of dominant display from his forwards. They kept, the ball in hand. But Richie's class. We know that. This is round one. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a Crusaders outfit that's been there and sort of done that. But it's a great sign, isn't it, when you see someone like Damien come back into the fold. Obviously, he spent that time in Japan, JK, but also now really start dominant. And hopefully this is where he goes, this is my position. Yeah,
just don't compare them, people.
Yeah.
Do not compare them. Two great players. The thing I like about Damien is he brings a different game. I think, KT, he's more like a rugby league standoff. He's a bit more lateral, he's not as traditional, he pops up in different places, and I think that's fantastic. I said that we completely missed him at the last World Cup because he can come on, he can either start a game or he can come on from a game, and he just brings something different. He has not conformed and he's always unpredictable. That's what I like about him. So I'm really happy because we do know, of course, that Richie's leaving. And Damien's still available. We just need to sign him as quick as we can, and hopefully we'll still have Barrett and him next year, when Richie will be a huge loss when he's probably coming into his prime.
Yeah, and you think about the Rugby World Cup and the bigger scheme of things, you got Bodie, Barrett, Richie Mo'unga and Damien McKenzie, all world class and all, like you said, JK, 3 different players. So it's going to be horses for courses. So depending on who you play and what sort of game plan you want, that's what you can do, and that's what I love about it. Like D-Mac, like you say, he runs a lot lateral, and there was a lot of pressure for him to change his game, but he didn't. And that's what I love about him. He stayed true to what he is and who he is, and then we've seen the fruit.
The hardest part for later on in the season is we've never had a situation. Well, we've sort of had, who would we play at 10? Not since Dan Carter's days that we thought, okay, he's out and out 10. Now we've got 3 different players that can play there, and also players that can play in different positions, or 2 of them that can play easily as well at fullback. So the big thing is going to be, when the All Black coaches come together, is what game plan do they want to play? Do they want to play the lateral style? Because you don't want to be chopping and changing, and when it comes to the Rugby World Cup, because the last thing you don't want inconsistency in the way the guys, their lines outside them. That's a massive position to fill.
Guess who my player of the weekend was, guys?
Tell us, JK.
Have a guess.
Someone in the Blues.
Yeah, well,
of course.
No, you'll never guess. I'll put you out of misery. Ben O'Keefe.
Oh, jeez.
I thought he was absolutely outstanding. I think the new rules are amazing. I thought he read it. I thought he was strong. He brought his personality, and the game was outstanding. I've only got one thing I'd love for World Rugby to change, is that when the game got a bit stale in all the other games, it was because of the repetitive infringements. So when you watch Moana Pacifica, I think Moana Pacifica gave away 6 penalties. I still think we need to add, after 3 or 4 penalties, 5 cards in the bin consecutively. Yeah. And that would then take the control away, because the only negative on the weekend was actually the players not knowing the rules. A couple of guys were jumping over and smacking the ball down. If we brought that in, I reckon the game would be absolutely amazing. But Ben O'Keefe was amazing on the weekend. Yeah. Let the game flow, was strong, made the decisions, loved it.
It was great because he was inconspicuous, right? And the players decided the result, and then they I think that's the real secret of a great performance. I think that's what he did. And I'm with you. If you have a clear-cut 3 penalties, 4 penalties, whatever the number is, then the players know that's all they can get to. Otherwise, someone's going. And even though the Northern Hemisphere, they don't like these rules because they can't play this quick. But I think that's something that needs to come. And you've seen the round one, how attractive it was.
Yeah, round one of Super Rugby was so great, wasn't it, Mills? All the All Blacks were playing big minutes as well. Brodie Retallick didn't come off, Sam Cane didn't come off. These guys are playing huge minutes, available and there for round one.
And the spectacle became a lot better too, didn't it? I mean, all of a sudden there's more on the line because guys were there. There's no sort of humming and hawing where the guys, are coming back in round three or who do you put off there, or when do coaches actually sort of pull them? There's a real focus on those players being out there. And all of them stood up. You've got to remember, they went on India tour and they've come back, so they've had a limited rest. They've got to get up with the play. The fitness has got to be up. We just heard Brad Weber say that, it's a lot faster game. So I've been really impressed with the way all the All Blacks have come back in really good shape, KT.
Yeah, and we've heard from the top echelon, the All Black coaches, saying that the All Blacks are available for 14 weeks. So that's a lot of game time, not pulling them in and out, so they've got to have rest in between. But yeah, they're available for 14 weeks of this competition, 16 weeks, it's massive.
Most players will tell you it's not actually the game, it's training.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You want to get out of training.
Don't train, just wait.
But I'm serious, once you get a bit fatigued, it's actually the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, the contact during the week. If you can get till Thursday or Friday off and just play, we saw it first when they changed the NPC a few years ago. Remember, we shortened it, and the guys loved it because they were just playing. So I think it's that combination, but it's great to see the All Blacks back. Yeah.
JK, I was sure that you were going to say your MVP of the weekend was Mark Telea. How can we not talk about this young man, 26 years old, absolutely carving this weekend? Has to be player of the round.
Definitely for me. The way he sort of created tries. Isn't it amazing? He's always been, before he wore that black jersey, he's been consistently, the player of Super Rugby year in, year out. He's gone to another level. What he displayed over the weekend, KT, was quite outstanding.
I think you guys know better than most. Once you get into that All Black environment, you just absorb so much. And I think he's coming out of that end-of-year tour. We called that game we played in Scotland, got those 2 tries. He's just gone to, as you said, that next level, and now it's coming out. And the confidence that he's got now, absolutely massive.
Great feet, good strength and pace. Put those 3 together and you've got a great winger. The thing about Mark, which is really interesting, is when you see him on television, he doesn't look as big as actually when you see him in person. He's a big man. But I think you're right, KT. You either go into the All Black environment and you feel a little bit uncomfortable and it takes you a little while to get used to it, or you go in there and go, wow, I want some more of this. And it looks like he's taken the advice that he's got at the end of the year and he's come away, he looks a bit stronger up in upper body, and I just thought he started incredibly well. I think what Brad said, about Sean Stevenson is really, really important. Yeah. You look for consistency. Sean's brought it in the last 6 months, but those guys, both of them will know if they want to crack on into that World Cup side, then they'll need to show consistency. But we need them to, right? Because I think going to the World Cup with a couple of, Nehe Miliskaras, where people don't know them, they haven't been able to study them, is really, really important.
I was just about to say that he's a dark horse, if you can call it that, because he brings something different on that edge. A massive difference.
We'll watch him with interest this year, won't we? Because he is in some form, that's for sure. The Blues laden with All Blacks, as we know. What are the All Blacks stood out to you, Mills? Did you like the Pedal-Feta, Bowden, Barrett? What did you think of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Hoskins? They've got so many to pick from.
They have. They've had that consistency now. They've got a really nice sort of solid group. Built around, they've got the Pedal-Fetas has really stood up as well over the last couple of years. I even like Ioane. Ioane played really well. He's starting to really mature into that role and really understand what sort of that looks like. So he's almost you've almost discarded him in terms of a winger. His first position now is centre. I like some of the touches he had, and he sort of complements the way they're wanting to play. So, and along with that, you've got some big boys up front doing their job. So I think they're really understanding their game, but also, in the back of their minds, that final last year, you heard Dalton say that, in his post-match interview, what that really means. So they've got a real desire to actually go there again and hopefully win. Yeah,
I think it's the same. When you go to a final and you don't play as well as what you should, and you feel that you could have done better, it always hurts, So that's a great motivation. You've got the World Cup also. You've got some guys maturing, but you've got a steady team that's consistent. And I think, like Brad said, it's early in the season. The Blues will be looking at the 20 minutes in the second half where they went a bit flat and the Highlanders got into it, but they're all things that they can work on. I agree. I think Rico's and everyone stopped talking about being a winger. And you know what it's like, Mills. You played fullback and centre. important to go, right, I'm a centre and I can really work on this thing. His work off the ball was really good. So I think that, the Chiefs have started well. The Hurricanes probably not as well, but really good. So we've got 3 sides that are thinking, wow. And the Crusaders, well, you can't get rid of them either. They'll be around.
The Highlanders, we can't ignore them either. Flau Fakatava in his return from his ACL injury. What did you think of him?
No, it was good. It was good first up effort, you know what I mean? So we've been wanting for him to come good for a long time, So I think this is a good marker for him. I think, just the confidence he'll get out of just getting back into that contact shift and proper game time will be something that'll take a lot out of him. It's going to take a little while to get up to that proper game speed for him.
He's played for a long time, hasn't he?
What he's done is huge mentally, because he had a decision to he had an operation and be out for 9 months and possibly not, make the cut for, Rugby World Cup or rehab. He's gone and rehabbed and he's looked like there's nothing even wrong with his knee, the way he's sort of come out and played. But you sort of often look at guys when a team struggles, when a team struggles, and the Highlanders struggled on the weekend, how well they sort of played, and he definitely, he rose. He wasn't sort of a guy that sort of didn't stand out, and so those are the players that I sort of look for to see who actually competes, when they're going backwards, rather than getting the nice sort of ride that some other teams would perhaps get, but based on the performance of others.
Oh, Highlanders in trouble already, I think.
Oh no.
I think their forwards have always traditionally, and Joey will tell you this every day of the week, they need to get in, do the hard work, make the tackles, not miss them, hit rucks really hard, not for 20 minutes, for 80 minutes. Yep. So it's really hard for them, but their front 5 needs to go to work and just really, really go to work for 80 minutes, because Fakatava cannot carry you. Yeah. He cannot keep trying to do that stuff. So they will need a huge performance this week, and they've got a hurt Crusaders side. Right, so you don't want to be coming in after our round robin and you're looking at 4 losses. So they've got to look in the mirror straight away, because they've got to go, and they can surprise the Crusaders because they've done it in the past. But I think really they should be putting it on their front 5. They just need to get to work. And I thought they worked really hard for 20, but then I thought they could do a lot better. It's
been in their change room, I'll be honest, and it's always been around the front 5 and that graft. And I think Manaki Selby-Rickett's a massive loss for them. I think he's one of those dudes who just put his head in dark places and just stood on people's hands and whatnot and just moved people. And I think that's the sort of thing that, they've got to aim up, as you say.
Well, after every weekend's action, one person, one expert is going to pick a Form 15. That is the best 15 players across the weekend. This week, we called upon one of our very own commentators, Tony Johnson. It was his job, so now it's time for you to pick his team apart, team. What do you think? Front row, we'll start off with them first. That's the engine room, KT.
Oh, me, front rows, yeah, love to. No, Tyrell, I think, of course, 2 Hurricanes in there has to be, but I think those 2 guys, obviously Tyrell's been fantastic all season long. He's carried on with that. Joe Moody was pretty solid in his business, and Asafo Moa, always so explosive. So I've got no arguments here, TJ, well done.
Toki Aho for me, I thought he was still a bit of a beast. So, I mean, it sort of, hooker. I mean, is that, obviously Moore came off the bench too, so.
Strike 1.
I agree. Takiaho was bone crushing as he always. Amor came off the bench. That's the best I've seen him play for a little while. I thought he was back to his sort of, bullocking himself. But for me, I don't know. I don't know if I would have put him in my starting lineup.
This man in a league of his own at the moment. He's come back like Mark Talia, and they've just not missed a beat, have they?
No, he hasn't, and he's consistently every year improved. He does the same old things, but he's a marked man. You've got to remember, this is against the Crusaders as well, and so he's consistently dominating that space.
And the thing that takes me to him, Toki Aho, is he's a hard worker. Like, he's one of the hardest workers going around, and he's getting the results on top of that. As well as obviously he's got the skill and power and all that sort of carry on, but it's that mentality to turn up every day and have the discipline to be a hard worker.
Never thought you 3 would spend about 3 minutes on the front row that Tony Johnson has picked. Let's take a look at his second row then. All Chiefs, second row. Mills, could you argue?
No, definitely not. I think these 2 were very, very good over the weekend.
They've got another one to return as well with Josh Lord.
Yes, exactly. I mean, our stocks in the locking department are really, really healthy. I love the way Brodie's come back, and he's had a few injuries, obviously, but he'll be rearing. There'll be a lot of fire in his belly to get back into massive form. Here
come the Lucies, JK. Every side in Super Rugby seems like they've got an amazing trio of Lucies right now.
Yeah, well, TJ Artie started at 8, I think, mate, so I'll just question that first up. I mean, I'd put Artie in every side. Unbelievable. I really think that these new rules are going to help Hoskins. I think Hoskins is an incredibly talented ball player. We saw that on the weekend. So if he gives a bit more time, I'm hoping he's going to have a real breakout season. And then just how hard does Ethan Blackadder run?
How good was he?
Hey?
Far out.
Hey,
Like,
after a bit of time out.
that's a great option for the All Blacks as well. So yeah, I think besides putting Artie at 7, TJ, where he didn't start, I agree with the 3.
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy's unbelievable, isn't he? Again, back from injury. Hasn't missed a thing. He's only played about 40 minutes of pre-season rugby, wasn't it?
And he was awesome last year too before he got injured, wasn't he? I mean, I like that. I mean, he's scary even looking at him.
Yeah. He, like you can see that in that first replay, that first show, the line he ran, and he had no like the game line that he got, but he had no regard for his own body. You know what I mean? And that's what he brings. He has that toughness, that hard running. Man, like good luck in that 10 channel. Well,
you've all picked apart Tony Johnson's forward pack. What about the backs? There's a blue in there, JK. Enough for you?
Yeah, and look, I think Christie was really good on the weekend. Different to his opposition, right? But he is Aaron Smith-like. He got a great pass. He'll run when he needs to. He gets into. So yeah, I thought he was, you know, Whakatawa was really good, but this guy outplayed him. Had a better forward pack, going forward a lot more. So, but yeah, I'd agree with that.
Midfield. Let's take a look. Who's he gone with?
Nah.
What's the
Was that strike 2 or 3? Strike 3 or what?
There's a strike
Geordie
3.
Barrett, you know.
No, Geordie was good.
Geordie
was good. I thought Billy was good. I mean, Billy's one of those guys that probably needs to take a leaf off. Sean Stevenson can be really good, needs to be consistent. And I actually just thought Rico was world class. So I thought Proctor was good, but I thought Rico was world class, and you'd have to put him in. How many tries did he score? 2?
Yeah, he's really mature. I mean, this guy here, he's going to cause headaches in terms of the number he's going to wear later on in the season too, isn't it? I mean, he's just going to add to it. But I love the way he's playing 12. I love, you know, he's done it for the last couple of years for the Hurricanes. Obviously, when he first played that position for, you know, the All Blacks, and his kicking and that as well. Man, he's such a good player. Yeah,
we see his kick pass. You know, he's got that option 2 places. He's got the one where he can smack it like 80 metres down the field. Are we sold at him at 12?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sold to the man in the blue tie.
That's
there
it.
it is.
You're
Love him
done.
at 12. Beauty.
He's there. Well, who will join them in the outside backs? TJ's had 3 strikes. Do we have a 4th? Or are you happy with this back 3, JK?
Oh, there's enough blues in there to keep me happy. No, Talia I thought was outstanding. You could not put him in, you know, as your player of the weekend. Sean Stevenson's one of those guys that I just hope he kicks on and makes the All Blacks because, you know, we talk about persistence, you know, we talk about resilience, we talk about... I mean, this guy could be playing for the Dolphins, you know, so I just hope he shows that consistency. I like him at fullback. He can play on the wing, but he is silky, Mills, and I think with the fatigue coming into the game now, late in the game, he's going to be...
Yeah, and his kicking game, you know,
massive.
That's huge now. Well, I think we've sort of come to the conclusion in New Zealand that we've got to have a balanced kicking game, and he certainly brings that factor because he can kick long kicks. I mean, we even see it with James Lowe in terms of the Irish and using him off the wing to kick those long kicks. So, you know, I think, equally at wing, fantastic. Though. Nothing wrong with that back through. When am I up for picking Because I don't want to be picked apart next week.
You'll be next week, Mills.
But
You'll be next week.
Like Shooter, he got that 50-22, was massive in that game, right? And then you talk about Mark Taleb being big. He's a big unit too. Like, people think he's slight, but you stand next to him on the field, man. He's a big unit.
Another dark horse for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it gets consistency, who knows? You never know. Caleb Clark, we all good there?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think... I don't know whether it's just Caleb's power, but I'd like him to take a good look at his sprigs. You know,
Slipping?
Yeah, he's slipping a lot, and it's probably just a power thing, but I think there's like a couple of times where he's going to score another try, so I don't know why that is, whether it's something he needs to think about with his balance. Yeah, get his old...
What a problem to have, too much power.
So powerful, you know.
Bugger.
But the thing I like about Caleb is he's getting off his wing, he's trying to get involved a lot more, and I like that balance. I like a dancer and then someone that can really hurt. You can use in midfield, bring around your first 5, take a bit of attention off that.
Well, there you go, TJ. It sounds like you've got a pass mark first up for your
15.
No.
Was that not okay?
Come on, TJ, we're not doing you anything.
I'm not making the rules around.
seconds. Tries and the third. Evans above. And it's a 2-2. He needs to pop it up, and he does. Good old Mark Talair. Unbelievable again.
Yeah, barely believable it is that good. No mai, hoki mai, welcome back into the breakdown. Well, we have so much more to discuss. Ian Foster, Kieran Reid joins us on the program. But first, we've got a snazzy news segment. This one is called the Musashi Power Play. And who else could it be this weekend than the very own Mark Talair? How many defenders does he beat? Count them for us, someone.
Oh, man, I mean, far out. I think we've just really spoken about his power and what he brings to the game. It's just so difficult. But I think also the vision, to be able to realise where his support players are, is another skill that's underrated with Mark Talair. But I mean, far out. Not many people in the world can do that.
Yeah, I think it's the shifting of his weight. So he's got very good feet, and he shifts late. So as tacklers, you think they've got him, but you've just that little bit off, and then he accelerates with the power, and he's got that little bit of Adi Savir. He just doesn't give up if you think he's tackled. He's got that little bit of effort, and that's a real brutal combination.
There is absolutely nothing on in that situation. Yeah. He's got no support, no nothing. Well, you just want to sort of hope that you get a really good kick in somehow, but he chooses the option to go and uses power, breaks, and those are big men that he's actually breaking tackles on. So he's using his space, his pace, but also the space that he's got to do it in is limited. That's an amazing effort, what he just created then.
You know, we've got stats for days, right? Stats for this, that and the other. What I'd like to see, especially on Mark Talair's post-contact meters, he'd be one of the biggest, I reckon, in the comp, easily. The amount of minis he makes after contact, it'd be huge.
And that is why. Yeah. He's our Musashi power play of the weekend. Musashi available at Chemist Warehouse. Now, if you've been watching the news all week or reading the paper, you would have seen it. Ian Foster making headlines left, right and centre, unless you've been living under a rock. He basically picked out his 3 favourite news reporters, and this is what he had to say on News Talk ZB. He basically is saying he doesn't think he will have the All Blacks head coaching job next year. He's reading the tea leaves, and it looks like there's a mood for change. Well, Ian Foster is clearly frustrated with how things are playing out at the moment. So they're being played out in public. And joining us to talk about it is our former All Blacks captain, 2-time Rugby World Cup winner and absolute legend, Kieran Reid. Kieran, thank you so much for your time. Hard luck to the Crusaders on the weekend. But Ian Foster, what did you make of him coming out and doing the media rounds this week?
Yeah, look, it's interesting to see. I think, the whole thing hasn't been handled well. I think that's, so New Zealand Rugby, really all the stuff should be happening behind closed doors. So whatever, it shouldn't be aired, what both coaches or everyone that's coming out and talking shouldn't be happening, but hopefully we get to the bottom of it and through it soon.
The players have come out and said, and everyone said they don't want distractions. What would you do, Rito, if you were captain right now?
Yeah, look, I think in terms of, players don't want distractions. But to be honest, if I'm coming from a player's perspective, I think they won't mind. They don't care what happens, as long as it gets dealt with in the right way. I think the way it's been dealt with at the moment, there's distractions everywhere. So just go in and either name the new coach or don't. It's as simple as that. I don't think the players, it's not going to derail them if you name the All Black coach next week. It's for me, it's probably the best way forward.
Rito, we've heard what Fozzie's had to say, and Razor's come out and said a little bit as well a couple of weeks ago. Do you think for him on that side as well, has it distracted the Crusaders at all?
I don't think so, no. I think, Razor's Razor. I think he's in that position where, he's been maybe, I don't know, the communication between both parties or what, but, from my point of view, I think Razor's the next All Black coach. It's probably what should be happening after the World Cup, but it's just like, okay, how best do we get there? And I think probably the best way forward, if we're going to do it, if we want to look after our best coaches in the country, which Razor certainly is, then, probably we just, you name them, you move on, and everyone can just focus on, supporting Fozzie and, because that's what we need to do for this year is getting behind him. And, the way New Zealand Rugby are probably just letting things hang at the moment, there's probably not much support, or Fozzie probably doesn't feel like there's much support for him.
Rito, put yourself back. You're the All Black captain right now. You've talked about the disconnect, and when we've been really strong is when we had that connection between the NZR and also the players. Given everything that's happened, not just the coaches' stuff, the stuff that's happened last year with the disconnect, do you think the NZR can actually win the changing room back after all this?
Look, I'm not sure of the exact ins and outs that are happening there. I do know there's that disconnect, and you can see it. It's palpable, what's happening there. And I think that's, the communication from New Zealand Rugby, I think, has got to improve. The players' point of view, I think, look, you want to have the team behind you. You want, to know that your coaches are being looked after and things like that. So, I hope it galvanises them for this year, and really, they backed Fozzie, which was evident last year, and they've got an awesome opportunity to go to a World Cup later in the year and show what they're capable of.
There's quite a few players moving on. Rita, I know you moved on a little while ago. Are you worried about it? You just think it's time now? We've got some of our leaders moving. Are we going to look at a year next year where we're just going to have to rebuild, and we should just get used to it?
Look, I think it is, the World Cup year probably becomes a natural end for a lot of players, and it was in my case, and, certainly a few guys this year as well, I guess. But what New Zealand Rugby doesn't lack is the talent, which is awesome. And so as long as you've got enough leadership sprinkled through the squad, that's going to carry on next year, which, we're going to be dented a little bit with a few guys going to Japan who could potentially still be playing good enough footy to be playing in the All Black jersey. But I'm sure there'll be enough talent around, or leaders around, to make sure people can, come on and do what's needed for the jersey.
Rita, I just want to ask you one thing. Like you speak about players moving on. We've got massive depth. Is someone like Richie going worry you though?
Yeah, it does. It's. I guess it doesn't worry me because I know what the situation he's in, and I can kind of feel for, the decision he's made there. But those guys there, he could play another 4 years or more in the All Black jersey and, create a dynasty, create a real legacy for himself and his story in the All Black jersey, which, he won't potentially have now. So, you're a little bit kind of, it's disappointing not to see that from him. But I totally understand, and as a player, I backed everyone when they made their decision because they got their own individual things that are going on, So, it's just a case of what happens there.
Kieran, is it just part of the modern game? We're talking about coaches now that are probably getting offered contracts for November. Is it just part of the modern game that we need to get used to? Players are going to go early, coaches are going to have contracts on the table, and we're just going to have to make earlier decisions. Is that just the way it is?
I think that's the way it is, and I think you've seen that, players probably now are maybe reticent to sign those really long contracts, or if they do, they put in the clauses to go away or things like that. So, look, if England and Aussie hadn't got rid of their coaches end of last year, then, if we hadn't signed Razor up, he'd be gone, because they would have signed him up now, I'm sure. So, probably the fact that they've locked in their coaches has made this decision, maybe not so have to be as quick. But, it's just the way of the world, I think, and everything that's happening in rugby is certainly going that way.
Rita, can I just ask one thing? We've spoken about the coaching group from New Zealand, and you've gone against this guy multiple times. What do you think about Eddie Jones going back to the Wallabies?
It's a scary proposition, I think. He is a world-renowned coach at international level, and what he did with England when he first took over them, in 1 year they didn't lose 16 times in a row or something. So he has an immediate impact. So that's certainly could revive a bit of what Australia can do. Whether I don't see them going on and winning big games in the World Cup, but he'll have an impact on them.
Kieran, it's so great to have you on the program to tap into that experience. And now, who's the Street Fighter fan?
Yeah, that's me, and the kids have a go every now and then.
Who's got the high score?
I hope you beat them.
Dad's got the high score.
Thank you so much, Kieran. Great to have you on the program.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Shots good.
Absolutely so lucky to delve into that treasure trove of knowledge. Kieran Reid, some really interesting things said in that. His endorsement ringing for Scott Robertson to take over the All Blacks role next year. Best coach in New Zealand, JK. Should they make that decision now, go early or not? What do you think?
I think distraction is a non-decision. You make a decision, then there is no distraction. There is a decision. So, I've had some voce di corridoio.
It's back.
Yeah, I think the NZR, if you have heard loud and clear, I think it's a contractual and personal issue. Whether you believe we should go early or not, and I was in the school that says wait, the NZR, they need to make a decision. They should make that decision and go for it. And if they go for it, there's lots of reasons why. But I do think it's a human issue, right? We need to get behind Fozzie, we need to get behind this team, and they don't need distraction. So for me, it's make the decision, and I believe, this is coming from me now, I believe they will make that very quickly, and it will go early. They'll decide on the coach pretty quick, I reckon, within the next month, and then we'll all know. That's what I believe will happen.
Is that what should happen?
I think so. I mean, it's all out there now, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is, when you talk about distraction, it's not news that NZRU would be wanting to welcome either. I mean, it's been hanging around for the last couple of weeks. It needs to happen because, as Rito said, we've got to now get behind the coach. I mean, Brad Weber said, we're sort of learning off Northern Hemisphere and what they're doing. This is what Fozzie has to concentrate on, not sort of whether... who's going to coach next year and all the other things that's topical. I mean, we should be trying to get in behind these guys and see, to make sure we absolutely behind them 100% to go to the World Cup, not whether who's going to coach this, when the decision's absolutely being made. It needs to be made for a number of different reasons.
So you think it's more of a distraction waiting?
I think it is. I think now that it's out like the way it is, it's way more of a distraction. We've never had this in Rugby World Cup yet.
Bizarre.
It is. We've never had where they've come out and said we're going to have a review and we'll name the All Black coach, then they don't. We've actually just gone, and if they lose, usually the coach is gone.
But Fozzie wants the job clearly next year.
And that's the other side of it, So, he must be pretty strong mentally, because after what he's been through, and then he still obviously wants that job, because if you take your name out of the hat, then obviously that distraction for him is gone, and he doesn't have to bite in all the questions that's being asked. But from his comments, it sounds like he still wants to be the coach.
So is he going to put his hat in the ring then if they go and interview for this job in the next few weeks?
Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is. And I think the way it's played out, it has to now become early. We have to shoot early, and like you said, it's a time now that hasn't been done before. I mean, normally, we've been so good and so solid from the top down, and for some reason or another, whether it be COVID or all these other outside influences or whatever the case may be, because the way it's all gone now, I think we have to get solidarity. We have to either name it now and be done, like you say, get behind Fozzie.
I just go to your point about guys, we mentioned guys going away. I mean, surely a coach that's going to be here for the future, Richie Moongo, 4 or 5 years in the All Blacks, surely he should have an influence about who we should pump some of that resource or that money, rather than sort of him going away for $2 million. Haven't we got a coach that can say, man, can't we pour all the resources to try and keep that guy? Because this is a guy that's going to not only bring his own legacy, but he's going to actually filter down that legacy to the new guys coming through, and not have a sort of a massive exodus of guys that just go because we haven't got a coach that's been named for the future, to then sort of say, well, we want to be able to keep 2 or 3 guys to continue that part of the legacy in the All Black jersey.
Look, players are coming out early now and saying they're going, and we all accept that. I think maybe it's just the times and we need to get used to it. But indecision creates distraction, so we need to make the decision, get it done. And it is February,
Yeah, true.
Right? We've still got a long way to go.
I still want to know what corridor you actually go down to hear these things, mate. Hey?
Take you some time, mate.
Yeah, in the group.
You need wine, good cheese, and the odds are good.
Sounds like a great place to be. The Eddie Jones comments make you nervous?
Yeah, it does
Instant
actually.
impact, doesn't it?
And that's the thing, that why I asked the question, because everywhere he's gone to, that next 12 to 60 months, he's improved the teams that he's gone to, and we know he goes all right at a World Cup. And
You're looking
I'm scared because these Aussies, they've already shown us they get it right.
They will play to their maximum, but I don't know if he's got the cattle.
Yeah, true. Good point. That makes me feel a little bit easier.
You reckon? That game in Melbourne, they should have tipped us up, let's be honest. I just think I'll be interested because Eddie's old school, you know, and it'll be interesting to see how these newer players in Australia adapt or react to Eddie's ways.
To a legend,
Eddie ain't
to a
changed.
Legendary Australian coach.
Yeah.
He got a standing ovation apparently the other day when he walked in. He's the biggest superstar over there.
Yeah.
They love him. Eddie and I go way back. He will not leave one stone unturned, and he will have that team fizzing. He doesn't need any injuries, and he'll probably find a couple of league players or a couple of passports around the place, and he'll try and make the strongest team possible.
Well, you know who never leaves a stone unturned? That is Laura McGoldrick. She's the new host of a brand new show here on Sky Sport called The Women's Game. If you missed it last week for their premiere, you can look it up online. Otherwise, set the alarm clocks, 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. That is when it all goes down. She'll be joined by some wonderful guests, so make sure you check it out. That is on Wednesday night. We'll be back right after this. Great to have you joining us on The Breakdown. Well, we've got half of a pretty handy Sevens team, and since we've got the King with us, we thought let's talk LA Sevens. It is all going down at the moment. You'll be glad you're not there with the absolutely atrocious weather they're experiencing at the moment, but our men are in action. No one's talking about them.
Yeah,
why not?
I know. It's interesting. Me and JK were just talking about this. For me, and when me and Millsy played, we had world-class players such as Christian Cullen and Jonah Lomu in our squad, and the women have that as well, where they've got Portia Woodman and so forth. And these guys are really introverted. There's a lot of young guys. I mean, Whinia Anganofos made his debut, and Dylan Collier's played his 50th. But yeah, I just think the way they go about their business and stuff, they just workmanlike, but they're at the top of the table, so they're going all right. They lost against Samoa, though, in their last game, but if they won that, they crossed over with Argentina, which I think is a good miss, and they end up playing GB in the quarters. So.
How do you make these superstars, the names that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, it was the greatest thing that I ever did as a rugby player. Like, it was great for my game. It was hard. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't have any regrets, but one of the things I should have done is gone back to the Sevens later on in my career. So we don't release our superstars, so we just need to make them some superstars. So they need to understand that if they want to help the game, then we need a couple of them to be like Kurt Baker, you know? Well, maybe not quite. But,
Sitting on your neck again? KT?
Still got the stain.
But he's a star, isn't he? And people talk about it.
We need superstars, like KT said. You know, in the women's game, we've got Ruby, you know, we've got Portia, we've got all these superstars that everyone loves, and we need to either create some superstars, and that means investment. Maybe the NZR as well need to invest a little bit more and putting them in the ads and doing a bit more stuff.
I think definitely that advertising, the model's changed from our days, KT? Like, I mean, that was just
you took all the money.
It was hardly anything there, man. Up to you. But like, that was the stepping stone into trying to get into Super Rugby, whereas now it's centralised. That is their field, you know. And every now and then when they have the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics, guys from Super Rugby or the All Blacks will come and join them. So, but they're right in it, you know. Well, they haven't, you know, they've only won one tournament. Is that right?
Yeah. But they've been in
but they're in the top four. I mean, they're on top of the table. So, where it's a little bit different when it comes to the women, because that really is the showcase of women's sort of rugby, you know, to go globally like that.
Can I just say one thing, though, too? I mean, this is something that the NZRU could negotiate with some of these 15-side players. Like, the biggest stage in the world is the Olympics.
Yeah.
We could have some of these boys playing the World Cup and going over to the Olympics next year. Why can't we do that?
Why not?
Have an Artie Savia, have a DMAC in there, you know?
Who would you want?
Smokes.
If you could pick a couple.
Artie Savia and
DMAC.
Yeah, those two would be pretty good.
Those two.
Rico would go all right. Mark Talia be okay.
Have them all, KT.
There we go.
Have them
Give us
all. And
Olympic
go
gold.
watch our men in action in the LA Sevens. That is all live on Sky Sport as well. Great to have you joining us tonight. Thank you so much. We'll see you back, same time, same place next week.